Hi, this is Curt and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
We got one more. Saving the best for last. Boy, this is a tough one. Were you able to connect the dots in this one?
I did. I didn't read the entire complaint.
Okay. I'm still a little foggy on some of the things, but essentially it starts with a captain who wants to become an acting battalion chief, and there's questions about whether they can, whether they can't, and some other things. The next thing that sort of happens is, and I'm really at a loss on this one. He is the seventh arriving engine at a fire, seventh arriving
Right.
unit at a working fire.
Presumably the last to the party.
Now he's a captain. There's also a battalion chief who's actually an acting battalion chief. Okay. But he is seventh on the scene at a working fire, where there's a policy that the second arriving unit will assume command. And no one's taken command yet. So he takes command, and then apparently in his own words, and he put this in the complaint, a shit show. The fire turns into a shit show. And he is apparently criticized for some of the decisions, some of the things that he did at the fire. Okay. But he, again, there was kind of back and forth. Did he do a good job? Did he not do a good job? And the chief said he performed adequately, but there were problems. So now comes time for his annual review, and the initial review seemed to be fairly good. He got performed well. After he had been shown it, the chief apparently took issue with some of the omissions that was in his annual review, sent it back, and it was revised at least once or twice. And the last time, according to him anyway, he refused to sign it because it lowered him. He still got performed well, but
The
it
score was
lowered
the
his
same.
number. I'm sorry?
His outcome was the same.
The outcome was the same, yeah, but it lowered him, and he didn't feel it was appropriate. But then somehow his electronic signature got affixed to the revised one. He had signed an earlier one, and so why that's relevant, you'll see that he filed a state law claim for invasion of privacy, I believe it was, but that's basically because someone used his identity to sign that annual review. But at any rate, but at any rate, he filed suit when they wouldn't correct his annual review. And I don't know if he's got a relative that's an attorney. I don't know. It's the first case I've seen where someone files a lawsuit over their annual review. But I don't know what you would charge up front, but I know many attorneys, we take the cases, 50 grand up front. Take 20 now, 20 in another year, and 10, after that, but this review thing really bothers me. But he is alleging race discrimination. And
well, it's interesting that two battalion chiefs refused to change that review as well when it was sent back down the ladder.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how reviewing and employee evaluation really goes in a fire service. I know how it was done in the police department, and the training on it is intensive. You study quite a bit for it. Even in the promotional process, there's a lot on the exams about rating and evaluating, and the errors that are inherent in the system, and this, that, and the other thing. But in this situation, if you were my boss, Curt, and I had handed you this evaluation of this firefighter, and you sent it back to me and said, change it, I wouldn't change it. You have the authority. If you think something was left out, you can append a page to it, or as many pages as you want. I disagree with, I'll say I'm a lieutenant. I disagree with the lieutenant's evaluation, and you're the captain. And then you kick it up, to the next level. And then they're going to look at what both of us have to say. I've been in this situation. And I've seen employees taken and given to other supervisors to be evaluated by a whole new fresh set of eyes. There's nothing wrong with doing that either.
Mhm.
But in my mind, and again, I agree with you, how does the officer on the 7th rig end up taking command? That makes no sense. And nobody bats
And then
1,000.
criticize them for it.
Nobody bats 1,000. Everybody's going to come away from every incident saying, I could have done this better. We could have done that better. I mean, that's just in ESU, we did 3 ups and 3 downs. I don't know if you're familiar with that phrase, but we critiqued every operation. Nobody went home after a search warrant or after a, high risk arrest warrant, whatever the operation was. Nobody went home until the critique was done. And the critique was not done until we had 3 ups and 3 downs. And
Mhm.
3 ups were things that went well.
Mhm.
And the 3 downs are things that did not go well, that could have been done better. And that sets the stage for future training, et cetera. And no matter what the incident is, you can always find a minimum of 3 things. And it forces you to really take a good look. It has to, the rule was, when we did that, there were no ranks in a room. That doesn't mean there were no bosses there, but it wasn't, the atmosphere was, you could say what needed to be said, because what we were doing was so above and beyond what the normal, police job is. So we needed to have that. And of course, whatever was said in the room stayed in the room.
Mhm.
Now, whether or not it's still done that way, I don't know, but that's the way it was when I was there. And that was a great way to do business.
Mhm.
And if I can't say to you, hey, Curt, you left me in a lurch there. I needed you. I turned around, you weren't there. Well, you have to be receptive to hearing that. And okay, what can we do to fix this? If you're going to have a hissy fit and walk out of the room, well, you don't belong in this unit. It's that simple. And in my mind, in this scenario, if the officer on the 7th rig is taking command, you have a bigger problem of leadership here than this fellow that's showing up so late in the game. If anything, if you think he did something, I hesitate to use the word wrong, or could have been done better, or things could have been improved, whatever, well, then pull him aside and talk to him privately.
Mhm.
Or depending on what it is, append your own report to the evaluation. Because presumably, it's still going to go up the line to the top dog. So I don't see the harm in doing that. To me, this seemed contrary to what I understand the evaluation process to be.
Yeah, when I was a career firefighter, we didn't have evaluations, so we didn't have to worry too much about that. And I know at the NFPA, when I worked for the NFPA, they did evaluations, and my concern is that sometimes they turn into a check the box activity that we got to do. Nobody likes doing it. We got to do it. We got to feed the bureaucracy the information the way the bureaucracy wants it done, and so it ends up taking on the nature of just a paperwork exercise as opposed to really being something. But I think one of the problems, this case kind of shows one of the problems when you're doing these evaluations and somebody takes issue or is able to create a narrative that they're the victim of some sort of misbehavior here in the process. And again, we have the allegation now. We have a court ruling that basically is throwing out the gentleman's claims, the captain's claims. We didn't get to that part of it, but his race discrimination claims have been rejected by the court. He's going to be allowed to bring his state law discrimination and also state law invasion of privacy claims back up in state court. But the federal claims under the Civil Rights Act and under constitutional claims have been dismissed. So it doesn't mean that they weren't legitimate, and certainly doesn't really mean much. He can still proceed, but I think it takes a lot of the wind out of his sails anyway.
Well, on its face, I don't see any racial component to this.
Yeah.
And again-
Unless if the first 6 officers at that incident were all white and nothing happened to their annual review, but he was gigged on it. But again, I'm not sure that that constitutes race, even if that is what happened. And I'm not saying that's what happened.
You know,
But I think if it had, then the court probably wouldn't have dismissed this.
but as usual, we're at the disadvantage. We don't have the whole story here.
Exactly. And it could very well be that he was downgraded for things that had nothing to do with what he said was the reason. He was saying that this was the reason. It very well could have been, there could have been some other reasons. I know there was something in the decision that discussed the fire chief had a list of shortcomings that he had, that she was kind of concerned that had not been in his annual review. And they ended up not making it into the annual review, but she wanted to make sure that there was something in there about that particular incident. So again, at the end of the day, the federal claims were dismissed. What do you think about that invasion of privacy? Maybe I'm misstating it. Was it invasion of privacy? What was the or identity theft? I guess
Identity theft, I believe.
identity theft. Yeah. What they took his signature apparently off of an earlier version of his annual review. There's a digital signature, and then put it in. He claims he refused to sign it. Is that really identity theft?
Maybe under Kansas statutes.
Yeah, I guess. So I don't know.